I'm deeply honoured to receive the award. It's actually my first visit to the University de Technologie Troyes, but I've had a long-standing collaboration with the university through the European University Technology Project, and I've admired it from afar, so it is great to be here. And I think it's also the huge contribution that colleagues who've worked with me have made to research and to higher education development in Ireland and Europe, so it's a great honour. What I work on is the practical systems design of solar energy. And that involves how to reduce the cost, make it more durable, make it more reliable, so that it is affordable and usable. And this has a range of applications, from designing the buildings themselves to be solar collectors. The components then can be added to buildings, like photovoltaic cells generate electricity, or solar thermal systems that might heat air or water, through to things that you might not think of as solar energy. One I like to talk about is daylight. It's so common that you think it's just normal, okay? But actually, most buildings use electricity to light them even during the day. And the ability to take daylight deeper into buildings, to displace electric lighting, is actually a solar energy application, through to new window systems, new types of glazing, new types of glass, if you like, that reduce the heat loss from buildings. So it's a very diverse topic, but the uniform factors in there are to do with reducing cost, enhancing durability, because within a renewable energy system, the initial cost is the lifetime cost. So reducing that initial cost is critically important. And also systems that are very matched to the particular characteristics of specific climates. So that's the application that you might have in Troyes, for example, will be different from the application in India, or will be different from the application in northern Norway. And it's that climate-specific aspect of design, understanding that systematically, is a lot of what I do. One of the key opportunities of higher education is to be a driver for economic growth, economic development. And the university I headed in Ireland was scattered over many, many locations across Dublin, which was not an effective learning experience, because there wasn't the opportunity for students of different disciplines to interact with one another, and some of the physical facilities weren't appropriate. So the decision to build a new campus was important, and we alighted on a former hospital site in the north inner city. But very quickly we realised that this had to be part of that community. It couldn't be something that was parachuted into that community. It had to be physically linked to that community and serve its own development and serve the people around it. So previously the site was a hospital for the mentally ill. So it was walled in, physically walled in, 70 hectares in the centre of Dublin, walled in. So one of the decisions we made, and consulted very strongly with the local community, was to break down those walls and create connections, so that it literally is a public space. So the campus is a public space, public utility there. Create opportunities for people to interact with the community, create programs which are about the educational outreach to that community around the site. Create a new transport infrastructure. It's in the city centre. So getting students in and out was important. So there's an extension of the tram system to serve the campus. In fact, the eastern boundary of the campus, 3 stops on the tram define the boundary of the campus. But that provides, again, an area that was deprived, now is part of the transport infrastructure, both into the city and out of the city. And also in the construction of the campus, and this is a project that's still ongoing, but is some 500 million euro. There was a clause in the contractors who built the campus that they had to employ local labour. Okay, then that had to maintain that. It then had to be training for local people to have the skills to be employed. So it creates a cascade, so that the campus is not for somebody else. It's intrinsically part of that community, and is seen as being valued by that community. Okay, rather than being simply something that's come in and has no relevance. But the students themselves, when they come, the success of a campus is how students own it. All right, it's not a corporate thing. Okay, so what I like to see when I see a campus, new campus, is when it gets the posters, it gets the things, it becomes lived in by the students. And the students themselves, in living in that community, in, as you say, they have certain food preferences, which then there's more restaurants emerge, nightlife emerges, etc. It creates life, it creates energy, and makes a place a desirable place to be, without changing from being what that community was. It builds on it, but it's critically important, I think, to the role that higher education can play in being part of society. Because I mentioned that it was a hospital of mentally ill. The first thing we built was the new hospital of mentally ill, which is now, because the mental health treatment has changed, is now primarily a day hospital. Okay, but those same people who go there, and also the other thing we built was a school for small children. Okay, because there was a school there as well. The mothers of those children with those children, the people from the hospital, as well as the students, are using the same canteens. They're using the same buildings, so that the university is not detached from society. It's connected with, and that experience gives students themselves an understanding of their place in the world, and also an understanding of the human condition. There are people who are young, people who are mentally ill, there are people who are old, whereas many universities are actually quite detached. So it's part of a philosophy. I could go on, but part of that was that this university should be a place, and it was something I discussed very strongly with a colleague, Noel O'Connor, who's now retired. Why will people in a digital world go to a campus? And we had to think about that, okay, and think about where the campus sits in a continuum of learning. And we decided it was because of the experience that campus had to be different and had to be in itself educational, and also that the facility was designed for students to demonstrate what they had learnt. In other words, physical facilities, laboratories, workshops, design studios, rather than lots of lecture theatres. So it wasn't a place where you just communicated learning. So it's that continuity in that process and the campus itself. So it's a much bigger picture, but it was to create a unique and different educational experience, which then students can elect to this university, that university. There's something that's different, and if this is what you want, you come to this experience. Okay, it's not to say other experiences aren't valid, but it provides those diversity of experience to meet different student needs. It has been very, very interesting. Troyes is very different from cities in Ireland, so even that experience is interesting. Very particular because of the times we're in. Since COVID and lockdown, this is only my second trip outside Ireland. I was in Switzerland 3 weeks ago briefly. And it has reminded me why it's important to meet people. It's reminded me why it's important to have actual conferences and discuss one's work. And I think that's a particular point of the times we're in. But also it has given me an insight into, I think, the freshness and vigour of the French education research system as well, which I think is also nice to know in terms of the kind of cooperations that certainly Ireland needs as a part of Europe.